Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this lesson. Today I am going to discuss The Darkling Thrush, which is written by Thomas Hardy. So here I begin. And before that, let me ask you, have you subscribed to my channel? If you haven't, then please do and watch the video till end and press the like button if you have liked this video. So let us start with a brief introduction of the poem The Darkling Thrush. It is a poem by the English poet and novelist Thomas Hardy. The poem describes a desolate world which the poet takes as a cause for despair and hopelessness. However, a bird, the thrush, burst on to the scene, singing a beautiful and hopeful song. So hopeful that the speaker wonders whether the bird knows something that the speaker does not. This poem was written in December 1900. The poem reflects on the end of the 19th century and the start of the state of the Western civilization. The desolation of the scene the speaker sees serves as an extended metaphor for the decay of the Western civilization, while the thrush is a symbol for its possible rebirth through religious faith. Now, a brief description about the poet Thomas Hardy. He was one of the most renowned poet and novelist in English literary history. Thomas Hardy was born in 1840 and died in 1928. As a novelist, he is best known for his work set in the semi-fictionalized country of Wessex. He was also an accomplished poet. He has written number of poems like Neutral Tones, The Voice, Poem of the Past and the Present, etc. And his notable novels are Far from the Madding, The Mayor of Casterbridge, The Woodlanders, etc. Now, let us start with the first stanza of the poem. And the lines are, I leaned upon a coppice gate when frost was spectre grey, and winter's drags made desolate the weakening eye of the day. The tangled burr stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyres, and all mankind that haunted nigh had sought their household fires. Now the explanation of the first stanza. The poet paints a somber picture of the world. The poem opens in a sad note. There is a picture of desolation. So, I here is the speaker or the poet, also symbolic of the poet himself. The poem begins with a bleak picture of despair and dejection. So the line, I leant upon the coppice gate, means here who is the speaker, I, refers to the poet. So, he is the speaker. He speaks in the first person using the pronoun I. What is he doing? He is leaning upon a coppice gate. What is a coppice gate? It is a gate that opens on to the woods. If you open the gate, you would be able to walk into the woods. And what is the meaning of coppice? Coppice means an area in the woods where the trees are periodically cut for getting timber and firewood. And when you cut the trees at that time, what happens is we pave the way for the growth of the new trees. So it is the evening time and the poet is leaning upon the gate. What does this suggest? This suggests that he is dejected. He needs support, and the gate tells us that it is a way into another place. Since it leads into coppice, we can understand that it is relatively an unknown place. So you can open the gate, you can go into that place, but the poet does not know what lies there. Or you can say what lies ahead. So, this conveys his feelings about the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. So, when you open the gate and walk into the coppice, it is like walking into the 20th century. Now, because of the Industrial Revolution, economic activities and lives of people have changed. So, the poet is feeling very upset and insecure at this change, which is why he feels like walking into an unknown place or area. When frost was spectre grey. So, when the poet wrote this poem, it was the month of December, and the picture is of ghostly landscape. Everywhere there was forest, there was frost. When now note the capital letter of the word frost, which suggests the personification of the frost. So, it is wintry, frosty evening, the landscape is barren and grey or lifeless like a ghost. That is why the poet also uses the word spectre grey, where spectre means ghost and grey is also a symbolic of depression. The line, and winter's drags made desolate. Next, the poet mentions winter's dregs, where the capital letter W in winter again suggests personification. Dregs means the last bits of something or left over. So it means that a severe winter is nearing its end, but still it is very harsh in its intensity. In fact, it is so harsh that it is making the landscape and the atmosphere desolate, which means lonely and deserted. The weakening eye of the day means the weakening eye of the day is the sun, and it is suggestive that the day has come to an end, and with the absence of sun, everything has become cold and dark. So, the winter dregs is a picture of desolation, and you do not find the landscape around, and the complete landscape is as if without population, and not only that, even the trees do not have flowers. So, the poet refers to the weakening eye of the day, to the sun as the sun is setting and it is evening. So it is no longer as bright and fairy as it is during the day. This evening is desolate, no one is around because it is winter. So, in this manner, in the first four lines, we get an atmosphere of bleakness, of gloom, and lifelessness. So, it shows us that everything is still, and this stillness is deeply sad and disturbing. Frost, winter, and weakening eye shows utter lack of warmth and sadness. The tangled stems coat the sky like strings of the broken lyre. So they are in the messy state. They seem to be tangled, ruins, and they are compared to the broken string of the lyre. Where lyre is a musical instrument, and if the strings are broken, they won't produce any music. So everywhere there is a picture of silence. There is no harmony in nature, and the winter is like that because even the birds in places which are very cold, the birds migrate to a warmer place. Many animals go into hibernation, so there is an utter deadly silence, as if so the tangled vine stems seems to be soaring the sky and looks like a string. So this is a simile, like string or broken lyre. So in the above line, when the poet looks around at the sky, he sees tangled vine stems. They appear as if they have carved themselves in the sky. Now, what are bind stems? They are dried stems. They are dry and leafless. Bind stem means they are the stems of the creepers. They are dried up and leafless, and they are all tangled up. So, here what is happening, the bind stems like strings of broken lyres. Here the poet is using a simile and comparing the stems of the strings of the broken lyre, and lyre is a musical instrument with the strings that it looks just like a small harp. It is used to be played by ancient Greeks. Now, why does the poet compare the tangled bind stems to the strings of the broken lyre? Because he wants to suggest that there is no music, there is no joy, no melody, no harmony in life anymore. There is no music in life. Music is gone because the instrument is broken. The dried stem stands for bareness. Since they are tangled up, they suggest chaos, uncertainty, and complications in life. According to the poet, this is what devoid of joy. Life feels as he stands on the threshold of a new era. So he is standing there. He is about to enter into the new century, but he is not happy at all. He is anxious, sad, he feels lifeless, he feels devoid of joy and enthusiasm. The poet then goes out to say that there was no one outside at that time, and all mankind that haunted Nigh had sought their threshold fires. So all mankind also they are compared to as if being ghostly nature, as they also don't tend to remain outside. They prefer to remain inside their houses close to their household fires. So, this gives us a picture of desolation, isolation. Everywhere there is silence. It is frosty, the sun has departed. Actually, it is the end of the century, and it is also the end of the day. And you know, end is also symbolic of death of the century, and he is standing at the woodland gate which leads to another world, or it is a change in atmosphere. Through that gate you will enter into a wood. So the poet says that there was no one outside. All the people who used to wander about nearby, but they had withdrawn to the comforts of their home. Their warmth and food was provided by the household fires. So that is the contrast between the atmosphere outside and the atmosphere within the house. So in this line, we can see that the poet has used the word haunted because he is suggesting that even the other people are not feeling the same way as they used to feel before about life. They have also been reduced to ghosts or shadows of their former selves. The changes in the society and the ways of life are very difficult to adjust to. So, they feel that they are not even alive anymore. Now I move towards the second stanza, and the lines are: the land sharp featured seemed to be the century's corpse outline, his crypt the cloudy canopy, the wind is death lament. The ancient pulse of germs and birth was shrunken hard and dry, and every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. Now the explanation of the second stanza. As the poet looks around at the land, he sees it as if a corpse that is a dead body. It is winter, and the sharp feature of the land appeared to him just like the laid out of the corpse. of the 19th century. Note the capital letter C in century. That is how we know that has been personified the 19th century. It is treated as a person who is dead and whose body is now lying stretched out. The cloudy canopy. Canopy means cover and cloudy canopy means the cloudy sky, so that cloudy sky is its crypt or tomb. The wind that is blowing is its death song. The wind is lamenting the death of the 19th century. Why does the poet feel so? Because he is very upset. The life in the agricultural society is being destroyed by the rapid industrialization in England. So he mourns the death of the custom and traditions of agricultural England. The ancient pulse of German birth was shrunken, hard and dry. This refers to the seeds which have now become hard and dry and have shrunk in size, that is, reduced in size. The poet uses the word ancient pulse because since time immemorial, nature has ordained that life is supposed to sprout through seeds. So, pulse over here referred to the power or force of life. Germ is that form which lives spring from or germinates. Now, this possibility of new life, that is, the seeds have now shrunken in size and they have become hard and dry. It will take a long time for these seeds to bring forth new life, and who knows when that might happen, because at this point everything seems so hopeless that the poet says that every spirit upon the earth seemed as frivolous as him, or they are unenthusiastic. There is no passion or energy left among any being on the earth anymore. So, what we have seen in this second stanza, that the poet intensifies as if he is stressing or emphasizing the gloomy atmosphere. He has associated the landscape with quite a few metaphors of death. So it seems like a corpse of a dead body. And to whom does this part belong to? It is the corpse of the 19th century which is being referred. The cloudy sky, the canopy, the sky overhead seems to be as if the tomb of the burial place of the century. It seems as if the cold wind is singing a death song. It is lamenting the death or announcing the death of the century. So the sky is in the burial place. The wind is singing the death song of the corpse of the 19th century. The seeds of life force is not active anymore and has shrunken and has become dead and dry, hard and dry. This is what happens in the cold weather. It is symbolic of winter, as is everything becomes frozen. They get reduced, so the force of life as if they have shrunken. The seed is the germinating power from which the life comes forth, and the process of life has come to stand still, as it happens in every cold season. Winter is also a season which is related to death, and spring is the season related to life. But here, just every winter, there is a particular winter where the century is breathing its last, and he is rather become a corpse, that is, dying out or fading, and the poet is in a very pessimistic mood, as if the next spring might not come again. The poet says every human being has lost their liveliness, their passion, intensity, including the poet himself. He is not only giving the reader the death of the last century, but he also means that the seed, that is the vitalizing force of life, the pulse of life, has died its death. So there is no chance of recovery or revival. Now I move towards the third stanza, and the lines are: At once a voice arose among the bleak twigs overhead. in a full-hearted, even song of joy eliminated. An aged thrush, frail, gaunt, and small, in blast bristled plume, had chosen thus to fling his soul upon the growing gloom. Now, the explanation of the third stanza. In this stanza, the tone of the poem suddenly changes from acute despair to hope, as the poet is continuously ruminating or thinking about the death of the 19th century and feeling very sad all of a sudden. That is, at once he hears a voice. A voice arose. The word arose signifies the lifting of spirits. Thereby, it shows that the gloom or the sadness is also getting lifted because it is a voice that has woken up and broken into song. A voice arose among the bleak twigs overhead, that is, above the poet's overhead. The poet that has overhead signifies that it was not just physically but also emotionally and spiritually elevated, that is, at a higher level compared to the poet. So we can see that amidst this passivity, this dissolution, sadness, isolation, suddenly there is a change in the atmosphere, and this change is due to the song of the thrush. Thrush is a song word. Like in India, we have a nightingale, a cuckoo. In England, it is not Indian bird. It is a thrush, which is a songbird. So this song of thrush as if changes with whose atmosphere. Up till now, everything was silence like the broken strings of the lyre. But now, what has happened? There is a song, there is a sound. So the speaker suddenly hears an old thrush which has broken out into the song. So the song that the thrush sings seems to be unlimited happiness, Katie. The line, in a full-hearted, even song of joy illuminated. The twigs looked bleak means even the twigs were sad, but from among the bleakness this voice arose and soared, full-hearted even song. Where even song means it is a song which is sung during evening worship, and the voice and the song express joy. Illuminated, which means limitless joy. The line, an aged thrush, frail, gaunt, and small, in last preferred plum, had chosen thus to fling his soul upon the growing gloom. So the song was sung by the aged thrush, an old bird that was singing this song. Thrush is a songbird. It is brownish in color, and this bird, the bird that was singing, was an old bird. It was weak, it was thin, it was small, and even its feathers were very scruffy. Its feather was disheveled because of the wind, maybe. This is what the woods blast, preferred plum, mean. The bird was not in a good shape at all. He was probably nearing the end of his life, which is why maybe he must have chosen to flung his song, means to sing with all his heart. Note the word chosen, which means that the bird had made a conscious choice to sing joyfully with all its heart, and it was singing a song of worship. So we all have choices how to react in a particular situation, how to respond in a particular situation. The choice lies with us. The poet is depressed, everybody is depressed, but in depressing situation or scenario, thrush has chosen to sing joyfully with all his heart and to sing a song of worship. So the song that the thrush sings seems to be unlimited happiness. It is a great contrast from the situation that the poet had described to us in the first and the second stanza, where there was desolation, there was silence, everyone chosen to be inside, there was no sign of any living. So the thrush is again a symbolic of life, and song of the thrush breaks the silence of atmosphere. Among the pessimism, suddenly there is a change of the optimism. Through the thrush is not a very young one, but aged, frail, gaunt, and small, and its feathers all seem to be disheveled, as if when a storm comes, the feather get ruffled. Thrush being old doesn't give us the desolate idea of giving up. The poet seems to have passion and intensity, but this frail, thin bird does not give up. Its love for beauty still has hope, even though it was the last day of the century. Bird himself was in a very bad shape and decided to fling, which means to cast his soul ecstatically upon the growing gloom. So, this was an act of hope and desperation. The bird had made a choice to sing joyfully and to use all the power in its soul to cast joy upon the sadness, which means to cover the sadness with his joy, to try to lift himself up. This is a reminder of Jesus Christ suffering and death on the cross, followed by his resurrection, which brought hope to mankind. Note one thing, that the thrush song was perceived by the poet as an even song, which means a song of prayer or a song of worship. Now I move towards the fourth and the last stanza, and the lines are: so little cause for carolings of such ecstatic sound was written on terrestrial thing afar or nigh around, that I could think there trembled through has happy good night air, some blessed hope whereof he knew, and I was unaware. Now the explanation of the fourth and the last stanza. In this stanza, the poet does not realize that the song of the thrush brought hope. It was brought essence to life. It has brought happiness, but the poet does not understand that what sudden happiness has brought to the bird. What terrestrial thing has made the bird so joyful that it sings out ecstatically. He sings his carolings, and the poet can understand the joy that the bird must be experiencing to sing all these. But he says, maybe the bird is aware of something, some hope, some happiness, but I cannot figure it out. Here the word blessed and the capital letter of H in hope suggests that there might be some religious or spiritual reasons for the bird's joyful singing. It could be similar to Jesus Christ's crucifixion and his resurrection. Crucifixion, Good Friday, and his resurrection and going to heaven, which brought hope to countless of his disciples. So it is a symbolic of that also. Evensong here also means the evening song, which calls you for the end of the day to come to your prayers. So they are related to the Christian religion ceremony, and carols are also symbolic to Christian festival, that is Christmas. And the hope is one of the three Christian virtues which have been highlighted, like hope, faith, and charity. Charity can also mean love for others or your fellow people. So faith, hope, and charity, these are supposed to be the three Christian virtues, and maybe the song of the thrush inspires the hope within us. The personification is hope, which is being personified, and resurrection, which brought hope to countless of his disciples. And the poet acknowledges that he is able to understand the reason for the sudden joy which made the bird to burst out into such an ecstatic song. There is some definite cause behind it. He doesn't know it, so the poet ends this poem in a positive note. Now let us see what is the impact of thrush song in this fourth and the last stanza. So the poet is looking around him and trying to find out what is the reason for this bird's happiness. He is singing with so much joy. So what is the reason? So he is looking around, but he cannot find any reason. So he comes to the conclusion that definitely there is still some hope. The only difference is that this bird, he is aware of that hope. He is speeding it through his song, but I am not aware of it. So let us look at the stanza what it says. So little cause for carolings of such ecstatic sound was written on terrestrial thing afar or nigh around. So the poet was surprised to hear the song because as he looked around he could not find any cause or reason for such aesthetic or joyful singing or carolings. He feels the terrestrial thing afar or nigh around means whether the terrestrial thing are afar, away or nearby, they don't have any reason to be happy. Terrestrial thing means things on the earth. Simply put, things around him seem happy or appear to be the cause of joy for everyone. So then, what was the reason for the bird's happiness that I could not think there trembled through his happy good night air some blessed hopes whereof he knew, and I was unaware. So the poet tells that the bird knew that there was still hope in the world. That is why the evening before sleeping he was singing so happily, and hope was trembling or vibrating or spreading through his melodious notes. Now, here the poet personifies hope by using the capital letter H. He calls it a blessed hope. Who could have blessed it? None other than God. The bird is able to feel and receive the blessing of hope. The bird knows this hope, and the poet says that the bird is spiritually elevated or maybe more in tune with nature or cosmic forces and processes which human beings are not. So that is why he says that some blessed hope whereof he knew. He is aware of it, and I was unaware of it. I, being a human being, I am not aware of it. Note down three things which regard to this stanza. First, an even song, that is the prayer song sung in the evening. Second, carolings, reminds us of the Christian carols, Christmas carols, which means religion and celebration. And the third one is the hope, which is one of the three Christian virtues. So which of the three are Christian virtues? First is faith, second is hope, and the third is charity, also known as love. So let us conclude. This poem ends on a note of hope. So the message is the message of hope. Although the speaker does not voice this explicitly, he does not tell us clearly that I am very hopeful, but he can understand that through the thrush song, he too is going to regain his hope. Till now, he was in despair because of thrush song. So now he is also going to become hopeful. The darkling thrush, where darkling stands for dark, that is the child of the dark in the darkness in the song. Maybe the bird is not visible also, but its song of hope. The bird is frail, gaunt, and yet it sings. So if the bird is old, so if it may die soon, like the century which is dying, its death, it might die as it is so weak, thin, so it has more reasons to lament or feel sad, and it breaks out into an ecstatic song, which is very contrast to its state. Its physical state is that of being withered away on a verge of death, and yet he does not lose his hope. Maybe till his last breath he'll keep up his hope within. He will sing with happiness. So this is the spirit, and the poet acknowledges this spirit. So the poet ends the poem in a mystified sense of hope. So this is all you need to know about the darkling thrush. While preparing, you should know that you will get the essay type of questions. So you will keep in mind some things, like you will talk about little bit of about the poet. You will give some background of the poem. You will also write theme of the poem, as in 20 marks questions, you do not have to write only the summary. You have to write these as well. So you will write the theme, appropriateness of the title of the poem, also judge the poem critically. Critically means you will talk about the choice of the words, the similes, the figure of speech used in the poem. How is the language? Is it ornamental or simple? You will also mention the rhyming scheme, if any, on the musical quality, and in this way it will make a complete answer for 20 marks question, as only summary of the poem is not enough. Now I will discuss the theme of the poem. Number 1, isolation and despair. The poet projects his feelings of isolation and despair onto the world around him. He compares the desolate landscape to the corpse of the crypt. The depressing mood permits every image in the poem, from the forest that is the Coppice Gate to the broken and tangled bushes and to the speechless grey clouds. The poet eliminates any sense of hope when nothing that even the seeds and new grow to have shrunken hard and dry. The poet felt depressed due to industrial revolution which destroyed man's relationship with nature. He felt depressed on the turn of the century. Number 2 is the nature's resilience. According to the poet, he valued humankind's relationship with nature, believing it be far superior to the man's relationship with machinery or technology. At the turn of the century, the poet found the natural world dying, but the nature doesn't give to the poet depressing outlook for the future. The thrush continues to sing despite being frail and gaunt. It sings its praise of life with full-hearted joy. Life is short, both the thrush and the poet seems to realize this, but nature continues to flourish its beauty. Number 3 is unexpected hope. The poet and the tiny thrush are against a cruel, isolating world. The thrush sings because even though it nears the end of its life, it still values adding beauty. The bird's sense of hope and perseverance becomes even more evident when compared to the speaker's hopelessness. The bird's song reminds audiences that even when hope for change, the germ and bird feels shrunken hard and dry, nature finds a way to carry on. My fourth theme of the poem is hope and renewal. The first half of the poem describes a desolate winter landscape which indicates the decay of the Western culture, which the poet presents as dead and unsalvageable. Just as the poem seems to sliding into despair, however, a symbol of hope and renewal burst onto the scene, a singing thrush. Various details suggest that the speaker treats the thrush as a symbol of religious faith and devotion. The speaker thus presents renewed religious faith as a solution to the cultural crisis he or she describes in the first half of the poem. The poet describes the bird's song as evening, which means an evening prayers, chants, and songs. The hope of thrush embodies does offer the possibility of renewal and resurrection through the religious faith. The presence of happy bird in the midst of such drudgery suggests the opposite, that religious faith is the one thing that will survive the nature of the march of the time. Now I'll discuss the appropriateness of the title of the poem, The Darkling Thrush. The word darkling means growing darkness, while thrush is a bird that is grey or brown in color with a spotted body. The title can be reference to the thrush arising out of the dark and spreading hope around through its song. The poem starts with the weakening of the sun, which is about to set. In using the word darkling to describe the thrush as its as to its size of the bird as well as to its frailty and old age, which belies the beauty of its song, a sense of hope in a cold, dark world, and thrush is a symbol of its possible rebirth through religious faith. Hence, the title of the poem is quite appropriate. So, dear children, with these words, I end my lesson. Watch this video till end. Do like, subscribe, and share with your friends so that you all can be benefited and excel in your exams. Hope this lesson will be beneficial for you in your study. Thank you.